There are moments in a man's life when the world shifts under him, so subtly at first that he doesn't even realize he's falling. For me, it was a key. A small, familiar piece of brass that no longer opened my front door. The same door I'd painted twice, sanded 3 times, and repaired more than I cared to count. I built that doorframe myself in the summer of '86. My wife Claire had stood right there on the porch, pregnant with our son, Ryan, holding a glass of lemonade and laughing as I cursed at a warped hinge. That house had been our home. Our start. Our anchor. And now, as I stood on that very same porch with my suitcase in one hand and that key in the other, it refused to turn in the lock. I jiggled it again. Nothing. I tried the trick, pull the handle toward you, push down just a little, then twist. Still nothing. My hand tightened around the key, but the lock didn't budge. The key didn't fit. I stepped back and looked at the door like it might explain itself. But it just stared back, mute and indifferent. I scanned the porch, the old rocking chair Claire used to sit in, now missing. The potted fern she loved, gone. My eyes landed on the mailbox, slightly askew, still rusted from where Ryan once backed into it with his bike. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. "We talked about this, Dad. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." Ryan's words, delivered without punctuation. Without warmth. Talked about this? When? When he brought up the idea of simplifying. Of downsizing. I thought he meant maybe moving into something more manageable. Maybe clearing out some clutter. Maybe sharing space with him and his family. I didn't know he meant this. A hollow kind of quiet settled around me. The neighborhood looked the same, the maple tree out front was starting to turn, the sidewalk had that same hairline crack, but everything felt different. Like someone had erased me from the picture and left the frame hanging. The moving truck was gone. I'd missed it. Or maybe I'd deliberately shown up late. I wasn't ready to see strangers carry away my past. Claire's rocking chair. My tools. The kitchen table with a heart carved under the leaf from when Ryan had his first crush. Gone. I sat down on the porch step, the cool air creeping into my joints. My hip ached, a stubborn reminder of the ladder fall a decade ago. Ryan had started hovering after that. Offering help I didn't ask for. Making suggestions I hadn't requested. I should have known then. A black SUV pulled up. A woman in scrubs stepped out and approached me with a practiced smile. "Mr. Whitaker. I'm Ashley, from Autumn Glen. Ryan said you'd be ready." Ready. I didn't respond. Just nodded and climbed into the passenger seat, suitcase between my knees. As we drove away, I looked back at the house. It stared after me, silent and still. Claire would have been heartbroken. "It's just a house," she used to say when something broke. But it never was. It was our story. A place where love and life lived in every nail and corner. Ashley made small talk during the drive. The weather. The leaves. Her niece's dance recital. I barely heard her. My thoughts kept drifting to the key in my pocket. Still warm from my grip, still heavy with a history it no longer unlocked. Autumn Glen sat on the edge of town. A collection of beige buildings that looked like they'd been copied and pasted into place. Vinyl siding, identical shrubs, parking spots painted too perfectly. Ashley led me to Unit B4. The room smelled of antiseptic and institutional optimism. There was a twin bed, a narrow closet, and a chair that looked like it hadn't held a body heavier than 100 pounds in years. The remote control was the size of a shoe and had 5 buttons total. A laminated calendar hung on the wall, bingo, movie night, Bible study. I sat on the bed. It creaked. Claire would have made a joke. Something about prison cots being more forgiving. I smiled at the thought, but it didn't reach my eyes. She'd been gone 5 years now. Cancer didn't care about strong wills or good people. She went fast. Too fast. And Ryan, well, Ryan changed after that. Less patience. Less warmth. More management. Ryan had texted me again while I was touring the facility. Said he'd come visit next week. He added a smiley face emoji. As if that made it okay. I lay down and stared at the ceiling. Listened to the hum of the vent. Smelled the bleach. Somewhere, someone coughed 3 times, then silence. I pulled out the key. Ran my thumb over it. This wasn't how things were supposed to end. Not for me. Not for Claire. Not for the man who'd given everything to give his son a better life. I remembered giving Ryan his first car. Staying up late to help with school projects. Cheering in the bleachers while he missed every free throw but kept trying. I remembered helping him move into his first apartment. Then helping him move again. And again. I remembered him crying when Claire died. Saying he didn't know how to be a man without her. And I told him, then lean on me. I've got you. And now I was luggage. I didn't cry. I don't do that. But something deep inside me shifted. Hardened. This wasn't over. Not for me. And certainly not for him. It was a Thursday afternoon when I signed away my life. Not literally, of course. The document was just a piece of paper, thin and crisp, slid across a polished oak table by a woman in a blazer too expensive for her age. She had a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes and a voice soft enough to make betrayal sound like compassion. Just a few standard forms, Mr. Whitaker, she said, clicking her pen. Ryan's taken care of most of the logistics. You're just authorizing the title transfer. I should have known better. I did know better. But I was tired that day. My back hurt, my knee was acting up, and the place still smelled faintly of Claire's perfume. That was the week I started forgetting to eat lunch. The week I forgot to water the tomato plants. The week Ryan moved the rest of his stuff into the guest room without asking. He said it was temporary. Said his marriage was going through a rough patch. Said, I just need some space, Dad. You've got plenty. Claire would have seen through it in a second. But she wasn't there. And I was lonely. So I signed. Not really reading. Not really seeing. The pen glided across the lines. Initials here. Signature there. Another signature. The notary stamping the final page with a flourish. Then a copy for me. One I never read. I walked out of that office with a manila envelope under my arm and the feeling I'd just handed over the deed to my soul. I shoved it in the drawer under the phone in the kitchen, the one we never used anymore, and forgot about it. Or tried to. That was 3 months before the key stopped working. At Autumn Glen, time has a strange rhythm. Mornings arrive too early and afternoons stretch endlessly. The days blur. You stop counting them. Meals are marked by trays and pills, not clocks. But that signature haunted me. What exactly had I signed? Ryan stopped by once a week, like clockwork. 15 minutes of updates about his work, a few offhand comments about traffic, and always the same parting line, if you need anything, just call. He never answered when I did. I started asking questions. Subtle ones, at first. Did you end up getting the roof fixed? Oh yeah, all taken care of. How's the garage? Still leaking? Nope, bone dry now. We upgraded the drainage. We? Me and Melissa. You remember her, right? Realtor friend. She's been a huge help. Realtor. The word dropped like a stone in my chest. A week later, I called my friend Walter from church. He used to run a title office before he retired. I asked if he could look something up for me. Just curious, I said. Just for peace of mind. He didn't say anything for a moment after I gave him the address. "Chuck, your name's not on the deed anymore." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" "I mean, the house is under a trust. Ryan's the sole trustee. That document you signed? It transferred everything. He didn't even have to pay transfer tax." I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. I hung up and sat in silence. The room felt smaller. The ceiling lower. My knees ached just from the weight of that truth. He hadn't just moved me out. He'd erased me from my own life. I started noticing other things. The way Ryan deflected when I asked about family heirlooms. "Don't worry, they're in storage." The way he never mentioned fixing the basement stairs, something I knew would have been flagged during an inspection. And then there was the newspaper. A copy of the Sunday Tribune left behind in the community lounge. Inside, a 2-page spread on local real estate trends. Featured in the center, renovated craftsman in Lincoln Hills fetches record price. The picture showed my house. New paint. New landscaping. And there, in the window, Claire's favorite lace curtains, still hanging. The caption listed the selling price. Nearly double what we paid. I took the paper to my room, shut the door, and read every word. The article quoted Ryan. Called him a visionary in heritage restoration. Said he had an eye for legacy properties. Legacy. He'd turned our home into a transaction. Turned my life's work into a portfolio booster. I dug through the drawer under the phone and found the envelope. Inside were copies of everything I'd signed that day. Now, reading carefully, I saw the clause, irrevocable transfer of all property rights to the beneficiary trustee. Irrevocable. He planned this. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't kindness. It was strategy. Claire used to say, "Chuck, people will show you who they are when they think you can't stop them." Ryan thought I couldn't stop him. But he was wrong. I didn't sleep that night. My mind churned with details, contracts, timelines, signatures. I knew how people like Ryan operated. Smooth talkers. Charmers. Always a story. Always a plan. The next morning, I called Walter again. "Can a trust be reversed?" "Depends." "Was it revocable?" "No." "Irrevocable." Walter sighed. "Not easily. Not without court intervention or a legal error in the setup." "What about fraud?" A pause. "Prove that, and all bets are off." I thanked him and hung up. I didn't have a plan. Not yet. But I had something better. A reason. I stopped shaving. Not because I forgot or didn't care, because I wanted to see who would look back at me. Every morning, I stood in front of the cracked mirror above the bathroom sink in Unit B4, stared at the deepening lines in my face, and waited. For anger. For grief. For something. But all I saw was a man who'd spent too long apologizing for existing. Chuck Whitaker, 68 years old. Former carpenter, husband, father. Reduced to a thin mattress and a plastic drawer labeled with his name in permanent marker. A number on a chart. A burden carefully shifted. But not forgotten. The rage didn't come all at once. It arrived in increments. The missing framed photo of Claire that used to sit on my nightstand, the way the nurse pronounced my name like I was a chore, the sound of Ryan's voice in my head, always reasonable, always controlled. "It's not personal, Dad. It's practical." That word again. What he did wasn't theft. Not in the eyes of the law. But it felt like theft. And betrayal. And cowardice. So I started documenting. It began with a yellow notepad I stole from the receptionist's desk. I wrote down dates. Details. Everything I could remember about the meeting with the notary. The day Ryan moved in. The conversations where things felt off. Then I made a list of what was missing. Not furniture. Not tools. Legacy. Claire's journals. My war medals. The cedar chest from her mother. The wooden cross I carved for our anniversary. All of it, in storage, Ryan had said. But where? And why? I knew I needed help, but I also knew better than to ask just anyone. At Autumn Glen, trust was a currency. And I was broke. Then came Darius. He was the janitor. Early 40s. Moved like a man who used to be strong and hadn't quite accepted that life had changed. He had a deep laugh and a sideways smile. More importantly, he had a listening ear. You ever been lied to, Darius? He gave me a slow nod. Sure. A few times. Ever had someone steal from you, then smile while they handed you the empty box? That got his attention. We started talking during his breaks. I told him about Ryan. About the house. About Claire. At first, he just listened. But one afternoon, he pulled out his phone. I know a guy. Real estate law. Used to play ball with him back in the day. You want me to reach out? I hesitated. Then nodded. Within a week, I had a name. Melissa Chen. Junior partner. Hungry. Smart. Not the kind of lawyer who wore power suits or talked in circles. She came to see me on a rainy Wednesday, sat on the edge of my bed, and asked one question. Do you want to get your house back? Yes. But it wasn't just the house. I wanted my dignity back. My name back. I handed her everything, the manila folder, the notes, my memories. She flipped through it all with a growing frown. He rushed you. He coached you. He signed off through a third-party rep, that's coercion at best. Fraud at worst. And if he resold without full disclosure? He did. Then we might have leverage. Leverage. A word I hadn't tasted in years. Melissa was cautious. She didn't promise fireworks or courtrooms. But she said something else I hadn't heard in months. You're not crazy, Mr. Whitaker. You were exploited. And we can fight. I didn't realize how much I needed that until I started breathing again. We moved quietly. She filed a petition to examine the legality of the transfer, requested a freeze on the trust's disbursement of assets, and submitted an intent to pursue civil action. All without Ryan knowing. We'll get their attention first. Then we let them blink. Her words. Cold. Tactical. I liked her. Meanwhile, I played the part. Quiet resident. Forgetful father. I let Ryan believe I was fading. Let him talk over me on his visits, let him think I didn't know about the private school he was trying to afford, or the debt he'd racked up fixing the house for resale. But I was watching. Waiting. On the second Sunday in November, Melissa called me with a smile in her voice. He got served. He'll likely reach out soon. Be ready. I was. Ryan showed up that Tuesday. No warning. No text. He burst into my room like a storm, cheeks red, voice barely contained. What the hell, Dad? What is this? Legal action. Are you serious? I didn't move. You sold our home, Ryan. It was my decision. You signed it over. Under false pretenses. You coached me. Manipulated me. He scoffed. You're not a victim. You're just mad you didn't understand. I stood slowly. Walked to the tiny bathroom. Turned and faced him in the mirror. I understand perfectly. I looked at my reflection, gray hair, worn face, eyes that had finally stopped looking for approval, and smiled. You thought I'd disappear. Thought I'd sit here and rot. But I remember everything, Ryan. And now the court will too. He went quiet. Then he laughed, bitter and sharp. You don't have a case. You don't have anything. I have me. And I have the truth. He left in silence. I didn't ask him to stay. Later that night, I opened Claire's Bible. Tucked between the pages was a photo I hadn't seen in years, Ryan at age 6, sitting on my shoulders at the county fair. I traced the edge of the image with my thumb. He was mine once. Now, he was a stranger. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I never believed in ghosts. But after Claire died, sometimes I heard her voice. Not out loud. Not in a Hollywood, creaking floorboard sort of way. Just little echoes. Her phrases showing up in my head, uninvited but oddly timed. Like when I dropped my fork and muttered a curse, only to hear her say, clear as day, language, Charles. Or when I'd reach for a shirt and hear, not that one, it makes you look like a sad banana. It wasn't grief. Or maybe it was. Grief's a funny shape, you think it's going to be a sharp corner and then it turns into fog. Then it's your best friend. Then your jailer. But one thing was certain. Claire had warned me. Not in some premonition or cryptic letter. She had said it, plain as day, years ago on a walk through the neighborhood. Ryan has a good heart, but he's not built for struggle. He'll take the easy road if it's paved. Even if it leads away from you. I hadn't understood at the time. I thought she was being too hard on him. He was only 25 then, still trying to figure out life. Still calling me for advice on his car, or money for rent. But she knew. She always knew. After Ryan's storm out, the silence that followed was like standing in the eye of a hurricane. At Autumn Glen, people noticed. Your boy looked mad, said Mrs. Forrester, leaning on her walker with the gossipy delight of someone who'd seen a live soap opera. He's just stressed, I told her. She said, unconvinced. Melissa wasn't surprised when I told her about the visit. They always show up in person when they feel control slipping, she said. He'll go quiet now. Let's use the silence. We met again in the library, one of the few quiet places in Autumn Glen that didn't smell like hand sanitizer. She brought more papers. Emails, witness statements, evidence that Ryan had fast-tracked the sale of the house before the ink was dry. He listed the house with Melissa Hatcher, his realtor friend, within 48 hours of your signature, she said. The house was staged and photographed before you even moved out. I stared at the documents. One of the photos showed Claire's lace curtains, just like in the Tribune spread. Another showed my old recliner in the corner, the one with duct tape on the arm. He didn't just sell it, I said. He monetized our grief. Melissa paused, as if choosing her words. There's something else. She pulled out a thin folder. Inside, bank statements. From a joint account. My name. Ryan's name. This account was opened during your treatment last year. You were in and out of the hospital. He used it to handle your bills, right? I nodded slowly. He said it was simpler that way. She tapped a page. There are withdrawals from that account totaling over $40,000. Not for medical. Not for household. Trips. Restaurant tabs. Jewelry. I stared at the numbers. Then at the line item, $4,500, Appleton Jewelers, custom band and setting. Claire's ring, I whispered. Melissa blinked. I'm sorry. Her engagement ring. She had it reset in '04. Said it was, a little sparkle for a dim year. We kept it in the safe. Ryan said he'd take it to get cleaned after she passed. Said he wanted to give it to his wife someday. I laughed. Once. It came out bitter. He sold it. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry, though I was. but because I felt her. Claire. Like she was sitting on the edge of the bed, folding laundry in her quiet, patient way. She'd never liked conflict. But she believed in justice. You don't have to punish him, she used to say. Life will do that for you. Just make sure you're standing when it does. So I stood. I dressed. I ate breakfast with Darius. I wrote another page in my notepad. And I remembered more. 3 years ago, Ryan had approached me about estate simplification. Said he was looking out for my future. Said his friend had suggested a trust. Said it was the best way to protect assets. You don't want to get scammed in your old age, he'd said, laughing. How ironic. Back then, I'd laughed with him. I'd trusted him. He was my son. But now? Now he was an investor with a human asset. Melissa filed a supplemental claim. Fraud, supported by financial exploitation. She added a motion for injunctive relief. Translation: if the court agreed, Ryan would lose access to the money, the house equity, everything. We're building pressure, she said. This isn't just a lawsuit. This is leverage. I nodded. And added another note to my pad. The easy road leads away from you. Claire's voice again. That Sunday, I asked Darius to help me with something. We drove to the edge of Lincoln Hills. Past the restaurants. Past the wine bar. Into the old neighborhood. My house was still there. New paint. New landscaping. A young couple's car in the driveway. I didn't get out. Just looked. The maple tree was still standing. Claire loved that tree. It's just a house, she used to say. But she knew better. When we got back to Autumn Glen, I found an envelope on my bed. No return address. Handwritten. Inside, a letter from Ryan. Dad. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. I didn't think it would go this far. I was just trying to help. I was under pressure. Things were happening fast. The house needed work. The market was good. I thought I could take care of everything. I miss Mom. I didn't know how to be strong without her. I thought I was doing the right thing. Maybe I wasn't. Please don't go to court. Please let's talk. I'll fix this. He didn't sign it. Didn't have to. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into Claire's Bible. Right next to the photo from the fair. I didn't cry. But I let the grief sit beside me a while. It felt like her hand in mine. 2 days after Ryan's handwritten apology, Melissa sent me a PDF titled, Proposed Resolution, Draft for Review. It wasn't from her. It was from Ryan's attorney. The letter was 4 pages long, wrapped in lawyer-speak and passive remorse. Buried beneath the legalese was the essence: withdraw the suit, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and Ryan will transfer a settlement sum to a private account. They offered me $250,000. $250,000. Tax-free. No admission of wrongdoing. The house wasn't on the table, but Ryan would formally acknowledge the significance of the property in a private letter of reconciliation. I laughed out loud when I read that part. They wanted to buy my silence. They thought dignity had a price tag. Melissa was calm. This is typical, she said. They're testing the waters. It's a warning letter in disguise: settle or suffer. Will I suffer? She hesitated. Then nodded. If we fight this, it could take months. Maybe a year. Discovery. Depositions. You'll have to sit across from him in court. It won't be clean. I looked out the window. Autumn was giving way to winter. The trees were nearly bare. The wind had teeth. Then let's sharpen ours, I said. Ryan didn't call. Instead, his wife did. Jessica. We hadn't spoken in nearly a year, not since she left a voicemail the day Claire died, promising to bring over lasagna and never showing up. Her voice was tight, brittle. "Chuck, listen. Ryan's a good man. He just got overwhelmed. He thought he was protecting you. He made some bad calls, but you two can work this out. He took everything. He took responsibility." I nearly choked. "Do you know he sold Claire's ring?" I asked. Silence. "Do you know he used our medical account to fund your second honeymoon in Napa? Do you know he used my name to apply for a line of credit last year?" Silence. Then, very quietly, "I didn't know." She hung up. Melissa added another item to the case file. Word started to spread at Autumn Glen. Darius told me someone from the local paper was poking around, looking into elder fraud stories. Apparently, an anonymous tip had pointed them to Ryan's real estate dealings. I didn't ask who tipped them. Melissa advised silence. Let them investigate. Let him feel the walls closing in. So I waited. I played bingo. I took walks. I helped Mrs. Forrester win at poker by pretending to miscount her cards. And every night, I opened Claire's Bible and read a psalm, just like she used to. Ryan sent another letter. This one typed, formal, defensive. "While I understand your frustration, I must reiterate that all actions were made with your best interests in mind. Our legal counsel maintains that no wrongdoing occurred. However, to avoid prolonged distress, we are willing to renegotiate terms." Melissa called it a bluff. "He's bleeding money. He's trying to mask it with bravado." We filed our formal suit on December 1st, fraud. Financial exploitation. Breach of fiduciary duty. The media picked it up within a week. Son accused of defrauding elderly father out of family home. My name wasn't mentioned. Melissa made sure of it. But Ryan's name was. He called that night. Left a voicemail. "Dad, what are you doing? This is going to ruin me. You don't have to do this. We can make it right. Just call me. Please." I didn't call. I couldn't. The next day, a delivery arrived. A box. Heavy. Inside, my woodworking tools. The old mallet. My chisels. A folded note, "I thought you might want these back. R." It should have meant something. But it was too late. Melissa requested mediation. The court approved. It would take place in January. Ryan would have to face me. I didn't dread it. I trained for it. Mentally. Spiritually. I reread every letter Claire had written me. I memorized key dates. I practiced breathing deeply when angry. I let go of wanting revenge. This wasn't about revenge. It was about memory. Preserving Claire's memory. Preserving mine. The last thing I did before Christmas was ask Darius for a favor. Help me build something. Like what? A bench. Just like the one Claire loved. We'll donate it to the park. He smiled. You got it, Chuck. We spent 3 afternoons sanding, hammering, sealing. I carved her initials beneath the seat. C. W. and C. W. Charles and Claire Whitaker. Still together. Still standing. The mediation room was colder than I expected. Not physically, though the thermostat must have been stuck on early frost, but emotionally. It felt sterile. Neutral. The kind of place built to strip moments of their history and tension, to reduce people to problems and solutions. There was a long table in the center. Bottled water on each end. A muted landscape painting on the wall, framed in fake oak. No windows. Just one exit. The air smelled faintly of lemon-scented disinfectant and artificial civility. Melissa sat beside me, calm and composed. Her navy blazer was freshly pressed, and her notepad already open. She tapped a pen against her knee, rhythmic, steady, grounding. Across the table, Ryan was 10 minutes late. When the door opened, he walked in looking like someone who'd aged 10 years in 6 months. Hair unkempt. Eyes ringed with dark crescents. He wore a gray sweater that looked expensive but hung too loosely off his frame. He didn't meet my eyes. His lawyer followed, a young man with horn-rimmed glasses and the nervous energy of someone who practiced charm in the mirror. "Thank you all for coming," the mediator said. Her name was Yvonne. Late 50s, firm handshake, no nonsense. "We're here to reach an equitable agreement. This is a confidential and voluntary space. Let's begin." Melissa spoke first. She presented the timeline. The medical records showing I was under duress during the trust signing. The financial transfers. The unauthorized loans. The sale of Claire's ring. When she finished, she slid a folder across the table. "We have grounds. And if this proceeds to court, we will present everything. The press will likely continue coverage." Ryan shifted in his seat. His lawyer leaned over and whispered something. Ryan gave a slight nod, then cleared his throat. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was just trying to make things easier. I didn't think it would snowball like this." Melissa stayed silent. Yvonne turned to me. "Mr. Whitaker, would you like to respond?" I looked at Ryan. Really looked. This was the boy I taught to ride a bike. The teenager I drove across state lines for a basketball camp he barely attended. The man I held when Claire passed. And yet now, all I saw was someone who couldn't look me in the eye. "I buried the woman I loved in that house," I said softly. "I built it with my hands. I carved our initials in the porch railing. That home held our history. You didn't just sell a building, you sold us." Ryan looked down. "I know." "No, you don't," I said. "Because if you did, you wouldn't have done it. Not even to save yourself." He went quiet. Yvonne cleared her throat. "There are 3 proposals on the table. 1. Full restitution including punitive damages. 2. Partial settlement with formal acknowledgement. 3. Court litigation." Ryan's lawyer leaned forward. "My client is prepared to return $175,000 and publicly apologize in writing. We request confidentiality moving forward." Melissa didn't blink. "Denied. We have appraised the full value of losses, tangible and emotional, $450,000 minimum. Full transfer of the trust back to Mr. Whitaker. Public retraction of the real estate article. And a recorded apology for family archives." Ryan looked at me. "You want me to go broke?" I shook my head. "I want you to understand what broke feels like." He folded. "Not immediately. Not dramatically. But I watched it happen, the slow collapse of a man who finally saw the cliff's edge." His lawyer asked for a recess. Yvonne agreed. 10 minutes. Ryan stayed behind. He looked up at me. "You're really doing this?" "Yes. I was drowning, Dad. After Mom died. I didn't know how to be okay. I wasn't okay either." He blinked. "But I didn't rob you," I added. "I didn't erase you." The silence between us stretched. Heavy. Final. When we returned to the table, Ryan's lawyer said, "We accept the terms." Melissa nodded once. Yvonne documented the agreement. Ryan signed with a shaking hand. So did I. It wasn't victory. It wasn't vengeance. It was something quieter. Something deeper. It was justice. That evening, back at Autumn Glen, Darius waited in the lounge. "Well?" he asked. "It's done." He smiled. You look lighter. I sat beside him. I lost a son today. He didn't answer. Just put a hand on my shoulder. I looked out the window. Snow had started to fall. 3 months passed. Autumn Glen thawed into spring, and with it, something in me softened too. The courtroom battle was over. The trust restored. The financial damage accounted for. But the scar, what Ryan had done, remained. Not visible, but deep, like a cracked beam behind painted drywall. I wasn't broken, but I would never be the same. Ryan kept his distance. His recorded apology arrived on a flash drive, delivered by courier. I didn't watch it. Melissa archived it as part of the settlement record. I didn't need to hear his voice trembling through a script. Some things can't be fixed with words. Some bridges don't burn, they simply vanish. Instead, I focused on the living. I taught a woodworking class once a week at the community center. Darius helped me coordinate it. We had a dozen seniors, some frail, some fiery, making birdhouses, picture frames, and a few stubbornly ambitious coffee tables. I felt purpose again. Not the blazing kind. A quiet ember. Steady. I spent mornings on the bench Darius and I built, nestled beneath the maple tree at Crestview Park. The initials carved underneath still made me smile. Claire's tree had bloomed early that year. Crimson and gold leaves fluttered like tiny banners in the breeze. One morning, I brought a small wooden box to the bench. Inside were mementos, Claire's locket, a photo of Ryan as a boy, and a folded copy of our first mortgage from 1985. I buried it at the base of the tree, wrapped in a weatherproof pouch. My past. Our past. Planted, not forgotten. Later that week, I started a new document. I titled it Legacy Ledger. Not a will. Not a memoir. Just stories. Lessons. Notes I wished I'd said out loud sooner. Page 1. If someone makes you feel like a burden, they were never carrying your love. Page 2. Justice isn't loud. Sometimes, it's just the quiet act of standing back up. Page 3. Never sign anything without reading it. Especially when it comes with a smile. I kept writing. 1 page at a time. For no one, and maybe everyone. For the son I once had. For the man I still was. For Claire, always. On a warm afternoon in May, I stood beneath Claire's tree and looked at the horizon. I thought about forgiveness, not the soft kind, but the kind that lets you breathe again. And for the first time in a long while, I did.